know, sir, I like you much better with my glasses off.
I guess I was born with the curse of foresight, 'cause I knew Joe was only gonna represent the war side. And that said, I just came to fight. You could keep the ore flight. Save the surprise and the gasp when the shadow of the fascists have cast is on your doorstep in the glow of your porch light. Save the surprise when the grid goes down and we go underground to lick wounds in the gloom of a torchlight. While up in the sky, a blimp glides by with a sign like New Year's 2022. Brought to you jointly by Pfizer and Coors Light. While the centrists observe from a comfortable courtside, right in the thick of the action behind a partition. We're in a morbid position, a plague of evictions, born a comorbid condition of the cancer of wealth. I fantasize that I cancel myself, hands on your head, throw your best laid plans in the well. There are no more answers, questions go back on the shelf. All Joe's donors, a quick show of hands. How many of you sub to the Lockheed Martin OnlyFans? How many are loyalist patrons for the Raytheon Patreon? Occupy Iraq and send $1 million off into the great beyond. Cool yourself with the safety on. True to yourself in as much as you dutifully spew out a mucus of QAnon. You can't convince me the capital wasn't surrendered with every intention of digging us deeper down into the treacherous webbing of censorship, ebbing your speech and dissension so you can't hold Biden accountable. Not in his mentions and not in the streets. No to the end that Joe will defend the elite. Joe won't embarrass McConnell, but Joe's not embarrassed if all of your children are hungry and weak. Too hungry to speak. Too hungry to stay and they just lie at his feet. Joe is fresh out of empathy, fresh out of policy, but he'd love to know, what was your favorite ice cream flavor to eat? Back when you used to eat. I guess the road isn't rocky for people who thought we were free. They'll believe what they read and Joe's here to lull them to sleep. Counting us down by the dozens, the culling of gullible sheep, led to the slaughter by media tyrants and government thieves. These are the leeches that stubbornly suck where there's nothing to bleed. These are the tumors that force us to crawl on our knees. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. My lips, brand new taxes, starving all the billionaires and neutering their Visa Maxes. Topple Congress off their axis, mobilize the homeless, give them axes, call it praxis. Chop a couple limbs off the legislative branches. We'll show you the difference between air as a human right and guaranteed oxygen access. Octogenarians who barely know what day it is are culling countless citizens while sitting on a dais made of ignorance that was built on the graves of the slaves made to labor for its self-declared significance. And all to build a Congress full of millionaires who make their fortunes insider trading while they shit on all the indigent. So I got a bone to pick with our leaders, and I'll start with the ligaments. Pick right through the muscle, dig the marrow out, and serve it to the unhoused millions living in their minivans or watching their belongings get evicted from their tenement. I have a dream where we breach the walls of Congress and just let them in. And what happens next will survive in only text, cause there won't be any evidence. There will only be that heavy kind of feeling that pervades a space where there has been a reckoning and you can feel its remnants. Let any man who enters seeking power know that those who came before him suffocated on their eminence. That there once was a seal on the wall, but we quartered it and scattered all the pieces that it might prevent its semblance. And so we end the great experiment. We'll take all your billions, leave you 2 coins for the ferryman. Leave you drifting on a Dutchman floating derelict among the wretched seraphim. For holy is the hand that wiped the land clean of those who pose as gentlemen. That's my time, honey, cue the thunderclap and strike the theremin. And so we end the great experiment.
Told to come alone. Joe said if you vote for him, he'll abdicate his throne as the father of the crime bill, soul of Jim Crow. Proud to live and vote as a Strom Thurmond clone. If he tried to kiss your daughter with a camera rolling, he'll try more than kissing her alone. Cozy up with Jill for a photo like a portrait of the Kissingers at home. You know I hate to kill the messenger, but if he's gotta go, we can FaceTime. And I'll slit his throat while he stares into the phone. Like if you don't know, kitten, now you know. This is where austerity has gotten us. This is all that palpable excitement for a 20-year wait on forgiveness for your student loans. But a distraction's a distraction and it's time to see some action. So here's one last song for Joe, before I try to keep his name out of the lyrics in my phone. Try to shift the focus to our senators and everyone in Congress who is all too happy to be hidden while we're wasted to the bone. It is not food insecure, it's starvation, and it lurks in almost half the country's homes. So if you plan to lay down, hold your nose and vote for Joe, have the guts to admit that you chose to submit and that you decided lending your support to a pedophile must be a step towards hope. That a vote for a man that spent his whole life implementing laws that dehumanized people of color is a vote against fascism. When you know damn well he's just a kinder, dumber face on the same white nationalism. So baby, throw away your scruples with the memories of your activism. Watch your weak resistance usher in a fucking cataclysm. Elect a bigot war pig and say you're gonna push him into pacifism. That's some bootlicker Stockholm hostage liberal masochism. Bootlicker Stockholm hostage liberal masochism. Baby, that's some fucking bootlicker Stockholm hostage liberal masochism. God, that's some fucking bootlicker Stockholm hostage liberal masochism. That's some fucking...
song about the great glory of America. F you, USA, and fuck the Constitution. We can't give you any money because we spent it on bombs. F you, USA, and fuck the Constitution. Privatize all life on the earth and you're polluted. Some genocide, Collin revolution. Life is just one big game here, but you're this fucking stupid. America, the land of the free. America, why did you lie to me? America. Back at you hard. America, the land of the free. America, why did you lie to me? America, yeah, so fuck you. You kind of deserve it.
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So I try to sit down with my wife and watch TV, but I just see propaganda elevating the police in the simplest of sitcom banter, and tiny little altars full of offerings to corporate masters in every well-planned wide pan shot of the name brand stocking up the pantry. Pull back one long tracking shot out to the garage to the logo on the Camry. Nice tight shot of the Camry. Close-up view of the Camry, slow pan up on the Camry, long slow zoom to the unmoving human who's up in the front with the tube pumping fumes to him straight from the back of the Camry. Ashamed he just could not provide for himself.
Who are these people?
It's us. We're these people. Hi, everybody.
I love that intro. I love that intro so much.
You can't not say who are these people either. It's now hardline in. Like you hit the bell and he salivates. It's pretty much how it works.
Who are these people?
So who are these people? We got Iron member Collin, aka the Care Bear. That's Radix-Carter down there. We got Iron musical director Jesse Jett in Camp David. You know, he's doing it up, making sure the pillows are warm before W gets there. W, and of course, you know, Indy left, right, this direction. It's weird because I have a new camera direction, so I have to think this is the camera, and then like this way, no, this way. That direction. Indy left's this way.
I'm on your side. I'm on your side.
Yeah.
As always, I'm on your side, dude.
Indy is above Jesse. Collin is to the right of Jesse. Stage right. What's your stage right, Jesse?
Yeah, that works
way.
For me
yep.
too. If I go right, there's Collin. Look at that.
There it is. So now that we got Arla directions figured out, we got people in the chat.
Brand.
Senate girls here.
Technology.
Which she always
AKA
tells me to
the
just
Bong
say Senate.
Father.
Oh, hi, fam.
Yeah, make sure to like and share this to all the people you know, like put up flyers at your local like church function and at your potluck and all that
tell your
stuff.
friends. Tell your
pretty
friends.
much. And
tweet
then
it, Instagram.
Then they tell 2 friends, and then they tell 2 friends, and then they tell 2 friends, and then we're that scene.
That's
in,
like 6 friends.
Yeah, that's like 6 friends at least. You know, I don't know. A lot of you don't have that many friends, so like this word of mouth isn't going to get us very far. Pretty much, as long as they don't shadow ban you, you're good. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we have a bunch of stuff today.
Oh, you said shadow ban. Oh boy.
Yeah,
don't say that 3 times. We know what's going to happen if you say shadow ban.
Speaking of which, I gotta pull up our rock fin. We do have a rock fin. Someone with the power to pin that rock fin in chat should probably do that.
Rock fin.
Rock.
Media streaming, rock fin.
Every time now.
Right.
The rock fin. Because they're like literally like whale tails. Shout out to Rockfin.
Right,
I'm gonna be hopefully I'm gonna have a meeting with Rockfin tomorrow. So shout out to Rockfin.
Not you. I Rockfin had to pause so I could pop out this chat. Just so I can keep an eye on the rock fins. You know, we're monetized on the rock fins. I don't know if people know.
Indy, pitch them my jingle idea.
Nice.
Have them.
I'm sharing the rock fin link right now to the stream, to the INN link. and the INN Twitter at Get Any News for those who aren't following us now on Twitter.
Nice.
And
Seneca really likes
RLA.
Red Pill.
There's RLA. I see her out there on Twitter.
They're saying it's such a good song. I'm gonna have to then. If you
Red
see
Pill's
more
awesome.
people, then May Carlton.
Tell 2 more people.
May Carlton's here.
May.
Yeah. I love seeing.
May
new
was here
people.
last night. May's back. May's back for repeat performance from last night.
Nice.
Man, did we have a good time? Holy moly! I laughed. I smiled so much.
Dude, that was.
Those are like therapy. Seriously, those are just cut loose and have some fun and play some tunes and loving it. So,
but anyway,
we got some stories.
We do have some stories, and I'll pull up those stories as we speak. We'll start with some of the stuff that I've seen and INN member Lucy has gotten into, and it'll be a good time. So let me start this slideshow, and in fact, I'm going to start it in presenter view because I'm smart like that. You know,
exotic.
So that I
good
can
like
come
that.
back
I'm
here.
style like that.
I'm
chill like that.
I am grace. I am style. I have good posture. You know, I can put that book right above my head. So, on the docket this evening, Gucci Socialist. Now, I'm wondering if Jesse knows who the person in the chair is. Would you know who that was? Can you can't see it, but if I do that, you probably can. Look at that. Should also right-click me and pin me so that I'm larg.
It's hard to tell. Is that Rick Ocasek in his later years?
Nope. You'll find out. You'll find out though, and you'll be like, "Oh, that guy." So you know who? We all know who the person on the left is. I hope. Kids at home. If we're taking this quiz at home, you know,
the person that Reef has been talking about.
I wonder if
incessantly.
Yes.
Since we
all have been.
Right.
At INN News.
But the one on the right is going to take Jesse a minute if he even knows who that is. Which he might not, but that's okay. I'll explain it to you.
Is this? Well, I'm feeling like
he's
it's
a
fashion
poet
icon.
Well, no, the one on the right. Well, yes
okay.
and no. The one on the right is a poet. The one on the left is now a fashion icon in the way of Christian Smalls. So we will get in to the big and smalls of the smalls.
I can't tell. Is that Nick Cave?
No.
It might be.
I wonder if people in the thread will figure out who those people are.
I didn't know there
in
was
the
a test
chat.
Reef. I've started drinking already.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm gonna have a quiz at the end, bro. We got to keep up. Yep. So, all right. So let's get into it.
It looks like you left Johnny Cash on a deserted island for a long time, and then you
Right,
came back
and
to
that's
get him,
what
and
you
you were
came
like,
out-
you're
it's pretty
starring in a
close.
remake of Reservoir Dogs, and
It's
go.
pretty close. So this is Christian Smalls. This is his Twitter, and he put out this tweet on the 9th of our Lord's May. You know, I mean, my Lord's Cthulhu, but you know, I'll let you choose your own at home. So Smalls writes, how can we foster connection across borders to address matters of climate, income parity, reproductive freedom, and beyond? Join me, comma, the Meteor, and GG Equilibrium's hashtag chimes for change, right? To hear from activists paving the way. So this is where our journey begins. Does anyone know who the Meteor is? Do we know the Meteor?
Well, see, I studied, so I know.
See, Andy,
I know the answer
studied.
I know this now only because I had to prep this with Reef, but prior to that, I didn't.
Yeah, I can say
I took the
honestly,
test.
no, I do not know, Reef. Tell me more.
Yes. So the Meteor is a group of journalists, artists, and activists committed to gender equity. I guess they're using there instead of equality. They're using equity.
Well, you have a character limit.
Yes. But that star can fit in there. You know, but so we'll go a little deeper, right? So this is from the Meteor's website, and this is who the media is. The Meteor. The Meteor is guided and inspired by our collective and adversary group of filmmakers, writers, organizers, and artists doing great work across the media and arts universe. They are storytellers and solution seekers, and they work in everything from documentary film to TikTok, but they share a commitment to moving the world forward against injustice. Get to know the initial group of the founding members below. And this is going to be hard for people to read, but I will make it as big as possible here.
No, you don't need to read it. You don't need to read it. Just blow it up and show the picture. Just show the picture.
So this
is what happened.
I don't know if people know who this is, but I'll read the caption. So one of our first brainstorming meetings in Gloria Steinem's living room. From left, Liz Plank, Treasure Brooks, Paula Mendoza, Mona Shablablub, Sarah Sophie Flicker, Cindy Liev, Kara Kearns, Rebecca Carroll, Miriam Ihari, Gloria Steinem, Sarah Kate Ellis, and Ashley Bearden. So yeah, that's who the Meteor is, right? Do we remember?
There was one that you. There was one that you overmodulated on. You did kind of overmodulate on one of them.
Gloria Steinem.
A little bit of peeking. That's a little better.
I can't do Sarah Sophie Flicker again. Please don't.
Sarah Sophie Flicker.
You're gonna kill me.
That's her fucking name, dude. It's right there. I mean, I can't.
Oh, you're gonna break him.
I'm not sure what is better. Last week's Eagle Woman or this week's Sophie Flicker. So I'll take either. I still wonder if Eagle Woman is married to Bird Person. But anyway.
All right, so the story goes last night. Reef yells out to me. We're on Discord, and I'm doing something else, and I'm looking at a different browser, and I'm not looking at the picture. He goes, "Hey, what do you know about Gloria Steinem?" I go, "Oh, she was a CIA agent."
Yes.
And he goes, "Oh, yeah, thank you."
Glad someone remembers. So the true story of Gloria Steinem, from the CIA to the world's most famous feminist. Before Gloria Steinem was the face of second-wave feminism, she was an anti-communist operative for the CIA and went undercover with Playboy to expose their misogynistic practices. So, we have a clip of her talking about this, just in case people forgot. This is her describing her time.
Gloria, at the festival, you worked for the Independent Research Service.
That's right.
Well, exactly when did your own association with the CIA start, and in what fashion? Did they come to you, or did you go to them?
In 1958, when I came home from India, I discussed with student leaders, past and present, many of them active with the National Student Association, this kind of small foundation to encourage Americans to go. They thought it was a good idea too. I was then told by foundations and professors and friends that I should not do this, that I would get in trouble with the House Un-American Activities Committee, the American Legion, all of those 50s people. And I became convinced that it was impossible. It was at that point that the student leaders said to me that they had in the past received funds for international programs from the CIA, and that they felt that this was important and could also be partly funded by the CIA.
Well, I mean, did you feel that you really tried? I mean, did you go around to all of the wealthy private foundations, wealthy private people, and explain your point of view, and explain why you felt it was important that the United States be represented at these things in a certain way? What did they tell you?
They told me that, well, the Ford Foundation, for instance, told me that they thought we were too liberal and too controversial, and that we would endanger their cultural programs in Austria. I mean, the first festival was being held in Vienna. It was not encouraging at all. And the private individuals to whom I went
Ford Foundation
often had particular points of view to put forward, which would have been much, much more restricting than the CIA funds were, which were free. I mean, no one was told what to say.
What do you mean they were free? You mean to say it was easier for you to work for the CIA than a private organization?
That's right. And the reason I think that comes as a surprise, as it did to me at the time. I mean, I had the conventional liberals' view of the CIA as a right-wing incendiary group, and I was amazed to discover that this was far from the case, that they were enlightened, liberal, nonpartisan activists of the sort who characterized the Kennedy administration, for instance.
You have not been working now for the CIA since 1962. You still criticize. You were down recently in Washington?
Yes, when the story broke that I had for 4 years been a Central Intelligence agent, I was demonstrating outside the Pentagon underneath Mr. McNamara's office against bombing in Vietnam. And this didn't precisely fit with the image of a CIA agent, but then neither does the CIA.
And we're back. So yeah, thoughts on that so far? I mean, this is just.
I heard something else jumped out off the page at me. Sorry, Reef. Something jumped off the audio at me, and I went and it's the words Ford Foundation, which is historically had deep ties to CIA.
Yes. So I hate that it makes me do this again. So that's who the meteor was, right? In case people were wondering how that interacts, but you may be wondering, kids at home, what this GG equilibrium is right here. Any guesses, Jesse? Any guesses? What GG? It's definitely not good game. It's definitely not that. If you're wondering, it's Gucci.
There's a logo that has 2 G's in it. It is
Gucci. In fact, it is Gucci's equilibrium. Gucci's ongoing commitment to generate positive change for people and planet.
Oy, Gavolt.
Yes. So, yeah. So, yeah.
That's my line, Jesse. Jesse's stealing all my lines.
This is actual Gucci, like the Gucci. Right? Like you can't get. I mean, I don't know how else you like. It's a circle.
Hey man, it's all Gucci, bro.
It's all apparently it is all Gucci. In fact,
you pop your collar when you say that to me, buddy.
So, if people would like to know what kind of company Gucci is, right? Not only are they
shout out to Habibi,
one of the purveyors of like sweatshop produced textiles. This is a $400.
This is one of my favorites.
And $90 swimming suit, right? For swimming, right? But if you just look at this highlighted part, they advise that you do not wear it to swim. But it's made in Italy, guys. It's made in Italy, so it's made in Italy.
Location,
very key. But it is 80% polyamide. I hope you kids at home like polyamide. It's also 20% elastane. I've never heard of elastane.
You have to hand wash it.
Right. Also hand wash anyway.
But not too vigorously, because that's too close to what it would go through when it would be swimming.
in case you wondered who Gucci was, I just figured I'd remind people. But I don't know if you know this individual, but I know him on Twitter. So this is Johnny the Commie, who looked at this and went, Jesus Christ, this does not look good, right? And, there's one last thing to check, this chime for change, right? So I checked on that too, right? And this is Harry Styles. Do we all know who Harry Styles is? Yeah. One of the well-coiffed hair-having One Direction member, correct?
Was he One Republic, One Direct. Yeah.
I think that is how the kids be calling it. It is the One Directions. It
is the One Directions.
So Harry has 2 Chime for Change stickers on his Gucci suitcase.
Ooh.
Chime for Change is a global campaign founded by Gucci in 2013 to convene, unite, and strengthen the voices speaking out for gender equality. So yeah, so I replied. I felt like I had to. Fucking Gucci, like the Gucci? Yeah, I'm with that guy. This does not look good. What's next? Versace? Louis Vuitton? He gonna get a couple of pairs of Louboutins too? You know those fucking red bottoms? You know what I'm saying? You gotta get some fucking red bottoms.
Hey,
little fucking power stiletto.
Hey, man.
Little black dress. We'll be all right.
You know what? I'll tell you what. If Christian Louboutin wants to make a pair of yellow-bottomed Amazon labor pumps, I'll bet somebody's going to wear them.
I'm sure we're getting custom
I know
Nikes.
somebody who wears a tax-to-rich dress who might be really excited to wear something like that.
It's amazing the parallels we've been able to make between AOC and it's almost like we've done this segment a few times on this person now.
I didn't say that. No.
You know, this is from Teen Vogue. You know, wonderful purveyor of real progressive journalism, Teen Vogue. The Union Drip account knows workers' rights are in style. They're literally fangirling over a Twitter fucking account that essentially just takes fashion from like union members. So yes, lovely dystopia we're living in. This is a real article. I'll put the link in chat if people want to go, read this, because I certainly don't want to have to, because I feel like everyone gets it. But do you now know who this is, Jesse? Dr. John Cooper Clarke. You have to have that. There you go.
No,
look at that.
No idea.
Dr. John Cooper Clarke. Well, he was one of the he's a poet. He's from I want to say he's Manchester. Right? What's the one with the bee? It's Manchester, right? They're the bees. They're like, it's like their mascot. Sure. They're like the worker bees, I think. Over London.
Sure, I believe that.
I'll check real quick.
Yep, pretty sure. Yeah, look where John Cooper Clarke is from. Tell me that. He's got a real accent that is very particular. But
he's from Lancaster.
Lancaster. Okay. So I forget how they call that. Lancastrian, something like that. Anyway, you'll see him on the popular show 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown. Right? He'll be over in Dictionary Corner, but he's a poet by trade, and he was a punk poet. So he would go to all those Ramones concerts and the Clash, right, and the Sex Pistols, and he'd go out and like cover. He's the opener, right? So he's pretty well known as a poet. But he has this poem here that I thought was fitting, so I figured I'd recite it for people. I'm not going to do a Lancastrian accent, even though people should go look up John Cooper Clarke.
Thank you.
So
thank you.
This is called Euro Communist / Gucci Socialist. And I'm gonna have to take a big drink of hydrating liquid. Tequila, delicious. For a modern home and cheap electricity, streamlined, functional, neat simplicity, put yourself on the slum clearance list. Dial a dialectual materialist. Find out what your net potential is. Get married to an existentialist. Don't doubt your own identity. Dress down to a cool anonymity. The Pierre Cardin line to infinity. Clothes to climb the meritocracy. The new age of benevolent bureaucracy. I like to visit all the big cities, museums, and municipal facilities. I strive for critical ability. I thrive on political activity. I'm alive in a new society. I arrive quickly, quietly. The car that I drive is the family variety, Roman Catholic, Marxist-Leninist, happily married to an eloquent feminist. A lapsed atheist, all my memories measure the multitude's deafening density. Psycho citizens are my enemies, crypto Nazis and their remedies. Keep the city silent as the cemetery's architectural Gothic immensity. A new name on the less than kosher list. The Euro communist, a Gucci socialist. So,
wow.
I feel like
When
that
was that
says
written?
what I needed to say.
Awesome.
So yeah,
When was
John
that
Cooper
written?
Clarke. I wish I knew when it was written.
I'll also check that.
Yeah. Thank you, young Jamie. But anyway, I'll give us some time to kind of like
Colin's
summarize
like our legal department, just like
our thoughts, right? But yeah, I love
Thanks,
John
Colin.
Cooper Clarke. He's great. I should find a video of him real quick. Let's see if I can find him reciting it. That would have been smart, wouldn't it? Clarke. He frequents
YouTube strike.
Yeah, he frequents hold on. So he's voices the king of modern poetry, John Cooper Clarke. I think he lives in Manchester. That's why I.
No, he lives in Essex.
Does he?
So
Oh,
outside.
okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
He's got a weird accent. That's why I'm like, it's super regional.
Yeah.
I will find him reading something.
I'm gonna make the phone go off.
Are you?
Okay.
Please don't.
I don't know.
Oh. You were supposed to tell me to put that on Do Not Disturb. But yeah, what do you think of the poem? I know Jesse's a purveyor of rhyme, so
Well, it must have been pretty recent because crypto Nazis and their remedies has got to be within the last decade for sure. I don't think that's anything old.
I mean, not necessarily, because I mean, he could be playing off of like crypto zoology, for example. Like that's fictitious.
Smooth Operetta by Dr. John Cooper Clarke, an area-specific poem given that we're a stone's throw from the theatre of
That's
dreams.
an accent.
Old Trafford
Yeah,
football
that's why I'm
club,
like,
ladies and gentlemen,
imagine
where
that
this
reading
kind
the
of
one I
style was
just read.
invented. I'm talking about the casuals here, and these are the trousers.
I
the
have people I
preferred
work with like that.
trouserings of that clique, like this. Hop sack with a perma-crease, authorised by the style police, frog mouth pockets on a flat front for work, leisure or pulling stunts. When it comes to the classic Callards, mate, Farrers, since 78. I got a pair in Air Force Blue, they look good with a slip-on shoe. A nice Oxford in a muted plaid or a Pringle wouldn't look too bad. You can't pull off a pair of pegs, Farrers, they'll cover your legs. Neat, 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 please do not make me repeat. The dress code is hard and brief, look out for the F motif. Spick and span, borderline sportif, spotless. Alive, she cried, Farrers, the parallel stride.
Which Farrers I think are jeans, right? Because it's Cockney rhyming, pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Wayfarers, there's definitely pants of some kind, trousers.
Yeah.
Trousers.
But yeah, I'm a big fan. Like this is him back in the day, right? Back when he was like opening for punk stuff.
Right, this geezer, he wins the pools. It does. I mean it does. He wins the pools. He thinks I'll get a motor, right? And not only that, I'll get a roll.
But anyway, I just thought I'd educate some people on stuff. So before I wanted to get everyone's take so far on just that tweet and what you think Smalls has been up to there. I
mean, for me, seeing the the warm welcome from Joe Biden and stuff. What's funny, what really threw me the most, I think that that first day, Chris Smalls had tweeted something about the president told me I got him in trouble. Good. And that immediately just made me think of Good Trouble. And I was like, there is a Good Trouble tweet on the immediate horizon. It was like, what, the next day? that they played that next clip, and it was Joe Biden telling him, you know, you're my kind of trouble, you're good trouble. I'm like, fuck us, man.
Right.
Seriously.
Fuck you.
Yeah. But no, I mean, me, Collin, and Indy have all been kind of covering a lot of stuff around the ALU and this story in general, and we've been trying to warn people and not just interact with Chris Smalls, even though we have said, hey, come talk to us. And a friend of the show, Franco, I think also reached out recently. Friend
of the show, Sabby, too.
Sabby has also tried to reach out. So
pretty sure if Feeney's talked to Derek Palmer from the ALU vice president.
Yes.
We've made attempts. I've publicly reached out and I've sent an email. I'm sure they're flooded with stuff. I've reached out to the ALU's email directly as well and sent that off to some people so they could see what was sent and what we want to do here. And nobody's answering our emails. I mean,
no,
look,
we
don't have much of a following, and I don't expect
we don't even necessarily need to do this on camera, even though that would be appreciative. I just feel like we want sit rep, man. Like where's the actual work happening? What's actually happening? You know, like we want to. It's fine. You want to get a message out, but I don't know if this is the message you want to be sending. I think is what we've been saying. You know, they're trying to politicize things, and I have some bit about his trip to Congress in a bit. But I definitely thought that this and Iron member Lucy has been kind of looking at the fashion side of this thing and how that may be, you know, part of the co-opting. You know, so she got replied by Christian Smalls. So if you look at the main view screen, Captain, at Shutdown Amazon is now either co-opted or has explaining to do. In less than 1 month, he showed up to GQ, Teen Vogue, shaking at POTUS's hands, at White House, and now streaming with dim candidates on the Katie Halper show. Right? So screw this ish. I am not voting for any of you fools in November. Smalls replies, co-opted by workers. Yes, lol face. I don't care about any of that. I thought I made myself clear. Has it been very clear to anyone else? It's not just me that's confused at this. Okay. So Lucy responds, explain this, chump. Right? I was invited with 5 other unions. Let me talk to those chumps too. Like, how does that just makes it to where, yes, unions are dumb right now then. If that's the decision making. Lucy responds, and how much did you get paid for the GQ cover? Right? And the Teen Vogue cover. And who chose your outfit for the photo ops with Joe Biden? And why did you wear a sunflower in the photo op with Dolores Huerta? Right? Do you support the war in Ukraine? I mean, these things are Lucy's asking political things, which he's continued to make this political. So I don't think this is out of line. You know, or at least he could make a statement clarifying he is not endorsing Joe Biden or any politician, since they all look like besties now. Otherwise, they just seem shady. So, executive producer of the show, since he gives so much money on Rockfin, Shadow Band Refugee, he could do that, but when the AFL-CIO would leave him out to dry, the deal, as always, with the AFL-CIO is kiss the ring of the DNC, take membership's money to donate to that DNC, and we will make you wealthy and powerful, or we can break you. So, this is Franco, Frank Analysis, friend of the show. I hope you all know him, love him, and go watch his stuff. You know, he brought on Shadow Band, who I think has worked with the AFL-CIO before, correct? Am I the only one in thinking that might be the case?
I'm not
Pretty sure.
He has been in a union. I believe it was the Teamsters that took over the place that he worked also as well, just like Chris. But I believe AFL-CIO, he's done extensive research, and He's incredibly knowledgeable about union infiltration, and he's actually quite anti-union because of the leadership. He's not anti-worker, collaboration and worker organizing and collective bargaining. He's against the corruption usually that occurs at the top levels of union leadership, and I will not speak for him. At some point, we'll have him on. But you know what? I think we're going to hear it from the man himself. So, orale.
Hold on, I need to add chat to this because for some reason it's not here. Chat, hello. Where is it?
Chat.
Oh, I had to pull one
Chat.
out.
What are you doing, chat?
There we go. It's up there. Let's add this down here. Make it bigger. Whoop.
Shout out to Big Mad Crab, to our boy Greg. Just found out we were born a day apart. So Pisces gang, rise up.
Nice. I'm also Pisces, so
INN creative director.
Yeah, not that me being born in March has anything to do with my personality. They're you fucking superstitious weirdos.
Me and Greg's upcoming side project together is gonna slap even fucking harder.
Did you guys charge your crystals? Did you charge them? Do they take double A's? Triple A's? Okay, so here's Shadow Band and Franco talking about when he went to Congress and the president, what he asked for at Congress. Does anyone remember, kids at home, what he asked for? He asked for them to enact the what act? Indy, do you remember?
Yes, the PRO Act.
That's it.
PRO
Let's
Act,
find out
everyone.
what that's about.
This bill, it actually amends Taft-Hartley in a certain way. There's two pieces of legislation that it amends in a cardinal sense, right? One of them being Taft-Hartley, and one of them was another Labor Relations Act that was passed in, I think, 58 or 59. It was about a decade after Taft-Hartley. So, and I wrote a piece on this about organized labor and what its pitfalls are. Hey, look, we can see Marcus now.
Yeah.
And the crux of Taft-Hartley is to get the state involved in labor relations, right? And that sounds well and good if you are in control of the state. However, you're not. It wasn't built for you. It was built for the fucking masters. So, really what Taft-Hartley does is it uses the state to tell labor organizations what is okay and what is not okay in the eyes
Like solidarity striking?
Solidarity striking is illegal as of Taft-Hartley, right? But also your contract. If you, as a labor organization, are asking for too much, so the contractors say, as far as raises and pensions and benefits and everything on your fucking contract renewals, then they can take it to something called the Council on Industry Relations, which is members of the state, members of the Contractors Association, and members of the labor organization.
Is that the union version of the CFR?
Yeah, pretty much. And they get to decide your contract for you, and they get to decide what's fair, right? Now, why someone who started the Amazon Labor Organization or Union would be jumping on this particular fucking bill boggles the mind, because it is specifically written into this bill that it has to be a certified union. That is code for it must be affiliated with the AFL-CIO, meaning the Amazon Labor Union will be stricken. It will no longer exist.
So, yeah. If PRO Act enacted, that means for the kids playing at home that the ALU wouldn't exist in that system.
Mm-hmm.
So, and no talk about repealing Taft-Hartley while he's there. So whoever wrote him that script missed out. So yeah, but that's I think all I had on this. Oh no, it continues. Franco did ask him, "Hi Chris, would you like to discuss in an interview some concerns people have about your meeting with Biden? It would help calm some people who have lost faith. Thank you, Franco." Franco, adorable and sweet as always. So, good for him. you know, we've asked nicely too, and I don't mean to critique you in a like Smalls if you're watching, which I hope you are. You know, we're not here to just critique you. In fact, me and Indy covered just last week how they're trying to screw over your workers, right? How they're firing them right now. Among
he was talking about that yesterday, actually.
Many roadblocks that the ALU is you know having right now. I just don't want you to get co-opted, and right now it seems like that might be happening. Like I can't hero worship you. I'd love to trust you, but you know, I definitely don't trust them. So yeah, reach out to anyone on our side of the space. Franco, Sabby, anybody, and actually give them the rundown of what's happening. That would be nice. In detail would also be appreciated. And you know, let us talk to the advisors who told you
not just what's happening, but what's not just what's happening, but what's the plan and how can we help, and how can we help organize and get the word out and spread the stories of what's happening in the warehouses and hold meetings offline for workers. We want to help. We have a voice. We know how to run streams. We know technology. We know marketing. We know social media. We have skills that we can lend to this. And we're offering, and we're kind of screaming here that we want to help. And you guys are up against the biggest machine in the history of the world that has literally trillions of dollars at its disposal, including the oligarch that runs and owns the company itself, the wealthiest man in the world. You're going to need some help from everybody.
Well, and we've talked about the main thing to avoid here is being politicized, which you've let happen to some degree. You're probably now going to have to like push back the other way, that you aren't a political organization, that you aren't affiliated with any politics, that this is about workers and it's not a left-right issue, that this is, you know, like I need some reassurances that you just aren't doing this because the DNC likes you right now. Because they're not in it for you. The only reason that they'd even support you is to help tank you. And I saw a tweet today from him that said something along the lines like, yeah, it took one thing from the White House, one meeting with the White House to like make sure every businessman and person makes videos and whatever. Like, yes, now they get to attack you, the figurehead. You know, like that's how this is going to be played. And now they're controlling the narrative on you, which they put AOC out and Bernie out, and they let you go shake hands with Kamala Harris, right? And what do you think every Republican gets to do now? They get to fight you, right? You appear as an adversary now to right-wingers. So you went there, you yelled at Lindsey Graham, and you said we should support the PRO Act because that's what Biden wanted. Biden was pushing for the PRO Act, if I remember correctly, which it says also in that Franco video, which people should go watch. So that's the, what is it called? Specifically, would the PRO Act be good for workers from Frank Analysis?
Oh, yeah, that was actually in, good. No, that was actually featured in one of the episodes of Leftist.today. It was actually in my Substack. So if you go to Leftist.today, you'll be able to find it there too. And that was also not just Shadowban Refugee, but you had Marcus Cage was in there as well as Jack Sith, who were awesome as well. So just
Collin, what do you think?
Wanted to mention
that. I mean, I don't really necessarily want to repeat anything that I've said over the last few episodes, but I'll say this again. It just kind of shows to me, and like people are calling Chris out, you know, like, oh, he's sold out, whatever. I think if anything, he's just naive. And I said this to Reef the other day, like, if you look at our history, and especially like if you look at the civil rights movement, you know, and just kind of see the examples of the people who came before, like MLK, Malcolm X, they've talked about this, you know, they talked about this stuff, these issues that, you know, the liberal elite class are going to do as far as trying to co-opt movements. And I said this before, like, Democrats are way more effective in destroying revolutionary movements. Like, if Republicans is one thing because everybody is like on the ready, you know, when the Republicans in office. But like when it's a Democrat, like everyone's guard is down. And it's much easier for Democrats to come in and infiltrate a lot of these movements, you know, and neutralize them. Look what happened, you know, regarding George Floyd. And so I think Chris, and I want to be as fair as possible to him because, you know, like people are not going to necessarily know all the stuff that in a way that we kind of know and observe, you know, from the outside in. So I can't fault Chris entirely, but given how I think we have reached out to him, the very people that he initially, you know, like he went on Savvy's show, he went on when Rising, when Crystal and Saga went on initially, you know,
Jamie.
yeah, like, you know, when he got fired from Amazon, and you know, people gave him love then, and the fact that now, you know, people have reached out to him now that he's gotten a little bit of notoriety and he's not showing up, you know, so far, you know, that's a red flag. And it's a red flag because we've seen this before. We've seen this with AOC. We've seen this with Cori Bush, you know? So, so that's the first part. And I think it also just kind of speaks to the lack of education that we have in this country, I think, especially regarding like revolutionary movements like this, you know, because I think if people were more aware of stuff like this, they'll be better able to kind of engage, you know, some of these tactics that the elite class puts on us, you know, in order to avoid an uprising, you know.
And,
so
you know, it's hard because like Nick from RBN, he periodically will share that one page from the CIA. It's like how to bust up a movement 101.
Right.
And those infiltration techniques, it's like a what to expect on Twitter guide. It really is. There's always that person that wants to chime in and try to just split everything up and just pour all this quicksand into every conversation. And in spite of however often you share that, people still fall for that same stuff. It's so pervasive in every serious conversation you try to have. There are so many people that want to show up and just try to split hairs until you just want out of the conversation, you know, and that's purposeful. And it's so hard to get people to see it when it's literally everywhere. It's overwhelming.
It can be, for sure.
I mean, right now it just looks like Biden and company are treating him like a puppy, basically, like a cute little puppy,
right?
You know, where you know,
we lost you. Oh, there you're back.
Oh,
you're good. You're
was
good.
it me or
yeah? I think so.
Okay, yeah. I'll repeat that, but like, you know, Biden and company are treating him like a puppy, whereas, you know, Chris should be coming in like a pit bull in the sense of they should be fearful of him. You know,
they should regret you even showing up. They should have to drag you out of that room.
Right. And I know like people have mixed feelings about him being at the White House or whatever else, you know. I'm personally of the idea of if you invited to go, you know, like make sure you make your demands met. You know, let them know like what you're looking for, you know, so that they will kind of pause as to why they invited you.
Give them no other narrative to run with, like no other narrative, and don't let people like talk about your message unless they're a worker. You go talk to those workers and you make sure that they're seen and that their voices are heard, not like they have needs that need to be met now. And that's the way you should come in there and like, you're going to have to seize this power. This isn't a power they're just going to give you. Like,
I mean, Chris really should have came in when Biden was like, oh, you're causing trouble. I'm like, and he should have been like, yeah, tell me more about Amazon, who is basically funding you. Like,
and what,
tell me more.
No,
about
the one who's causing trouble Right. The one who's really causing trouble is Jeff Bezos. And what are you going to do about that? Because he's hurting workers worldwide, or nationwide for sure, but worldwide. And you and the NLRB has the power to stop that.
Yeah. And I don't think that like that him signing up and fucking making a party with Gucci is going to help any of that. Like, to me, if you're trying to get your message out, watch what happens when they have to drag you out of the Oval Office. Like, watch what messaging you get. Right? And that's what people want. I know it seems risky, but just put it all on black at this point and roll those bones. Like, it's we need that right now. We need somebody to do that, and we're tired of waiting. We've played this game over and over and over again. We need one person to fucking do what needs to be done right now. And I can't say I'd be able to do it better, but I definitely would avoid Gucci. Like, I'm not going to let myself get even seem like I'm getting bought out. Like, that's what's crazy to me. Like, how do you not see those optics? Like, anyway, Lucy is in the chat. What's up, Lucy? They're already tweeting out his stuff to tell people to vote blue. Yeah, exactly. They're using this to politicize the entire labor movement.
AOC hopping up at his speech and saying, we this and we did that and we did this. It was not an accident. That was not some fluke. You know, that's very purposeful messaging to just kind of usher that right into their imaginary wins list and play off of it.
Don't give a politician a mic, a camera, anything. If they want to show up and get coffee and donuts at your function, that's one thing. Like,
upside their head, maybe.
Yeah, like, I mean, to me, it just amazes me that we're even having to, like, argue over this. Crazy. But I wanted to move on to our next story before we let people get, too set in here. So this is Indy's story, correct? A day without childcare.
Yes.
Okay. Indy, just let me know what you need. So this is on Monday, May 9th, 2022. Right?
Yep. Yeah. So, and it's really funny because I was going to do this on How Do We Miss That? We had a couple extra stories. I'm like, this kind of fits because we have an early childhood educator in the panel here tonight, and I figured I would love to hear his perspective because when I mentioned this, he also had not heard about this, and this is shocking because this was not a small action that happened here. And let's move a little bit forward and show people what happened. All right. So this was in our friends Popular Resistance. Big shout out to Popular Resistance. All right, through Portside, they pick up and aggregate stories like we do at independentleft.news. All right, again, hundreds of daycares closed today as educators go on strike. It was, I believe, a one-day strike. Again, hundreds of child care providers in 27 states in Washington, D.C. That's not a small amount. Went on strike to remind policymakers not only how essential they are, not only to families, but to the nation's economy. And with 3 young children who are either in or just came out of daycare, I can't agree more. Hundreds of child care providers in 27 states went on strike Monday to remind rights. They said that early childhood professionals and the parents they serve said they're fed up with the lack of progress on policy promises, such as better wages and expanded subsidies. Right? Never met a family who said that child care was affordable, says Alex Schiavone, member of the Ideal Learning Roundtable, which is a national group of developmental early childhood education experts.
Right.
Think tank. Okay, but a decent one. She helped organize a Connecticut specific day of activism this year. So she's an activist as well. She's an organizer. And credit to all organizers, really, who get people together to take direct action like what happened here. So few providers make much of a profit, as we know. Many are in the red. And teaching and caring for young children is as expensive as it is essential. And these people, they dedicate their lives to it. They lose money constantly, again, like they said, but they know how important it is for the children, and they're dedicated, and I love that. So again, center closures were among various ways organizers took action Monday as part of the Day Without Childcare. Okay, a national day of action. That was what it was titled. Some will take students and any interested parents on field trips at a rally to state capitals or city halls or to celebrations at parks. Others simply ask parents to wear work pins with statements such as, "I wouldn't be here today without childcare." Well, thanks. There are more than 50 confirmed events and nearly 400 providers who pledged to call their daughters or strike on Monday. That's close their doors, call out, or strike. 400 providers, according to a community organizer in New York City, Wendell Lee Marte, who helped coordinate the national initiative. These are real organizers. These are great people.
Okay.
Right. And,
the best people.
And this is we have the best people.
The best people.
We probably should have cut this into two. But what they're talking about, how again, and Collin is staying silent because Collin weighs in like Collin does at the end there, and he's got plenty to say, I'm sure. But again, the educators are saying, why should I have to sacrifice taking care of my family? Because demand for childcare exceeds the supply, and one reason is a crisis in staffing, right? So, again, survey conducted last summer. So again, you've got poverty, low level wages, and lack fringe benefits. And again, it's really tough. You have a lot of young women are working in this field, and they either, find better salaried jobs. They move up either to they get promoted. That happens once or twice, when there's a directorship or whatever opens up. But most of them actually have to move on to better paying jobs in time. And I think that's what they're talking about. On top of the fact that, again, 4 in 5 early learning and child care centers were nationally understaffed. I mean, that's a crisis, like they said. Okay. So participating in the day of action said the problem has gotten worse, of course, pushing some of the workers to lower stress, higher paying jobs at warehouses and chain restaurants, right, where they can.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Right. So in consultation with staff and parents, this is Chenille Hunter's Circle Academy. Right. So she decided to close down her center on Monday and make a statement as Black women and 4th generation childcare provider, which is that why should I sacrifice taking care of my family? Why am I constantly in a position where I have to choose? I want to leave my business to my children, but I'm strongly against advocating for my daughters coming into this industry because it's a tough slog.
Yeah.
So they had a block party and a rally at City Hall in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Again, this is I believe the end of the article. Again, where it says many of the women who are spearheading the protests were themselves mothers who both relied on and struggled to afford childcare when their kids were younger. They quote unquote paid their dues, right? And they got their degrees. They studied early childhood education, probably went into debt. They worked in classrooms, and then they complied with all the licensing rules to retain their designation as high quality. That again gets expensive, and this is what and again, women account for almost all of the childcare workforce, and a disproportionate number of women of color, and their median wage is just $13.22 an hour to take care of, to wipe asses, to change diapers. I mean, wow.
And this is
shout out to all the teachers.
Yeah.
Did I?
I think Collin did. Collin, you added this, right?
I think Collin did
add this because thank you, Indy, for bringing out the article, because like I said, I had no idea, about this strike, and had I known about it, I definitely would have promoted it. But I think that just goes to show like how little attention, this got, I think, in mainstream media. And I think especially, I think even in independent media that this didn't get any, traction.
Play. Yeah.
But I wanted to make this connection to Build Back Better, because this was an issue that I was yelling at the top of my lungs, basically, when Build Back Better, especially regarding universal pre-K, now became a hot topic. I want to say right now, I am pro universal pre-K. I think it's definitely needed, but I think there are things that need to happen first that I think people are not necessarily addressing in order for it to be a viable thing in this country. This is an article that I pulled from CNN that well, I didn't find any article that goes into what I will talk about, but these are the issues that people have mentioned, about, like some of the cons regarding universal pre-K under the Build Back Better bill.
Gotcha.
So I can read it, it's fine.
Okay.
So
I
the
don't mind.
nation's public education system could be transformed under Joe Biden's plan to create a free universal pre-K, which would make preschool available and affordable to 6 million more children. But if passed by Congress as part of a sweeping social safety net bill, one major challenge to implementation is hiring tens of thousands of new teachers at a time when schools are already struggling to fill existing positions. Between 40,000 and 50,000 new teachers are needed to enroll just 70% of 3 and 4-year-olds, according to an estimate from the National Institute for Early Education Research at Rutgers.
Okay.
That doesn't include any additional assistants, paraprofessionals, or other staff that might be needed.
Gotcha.
So I think basically, like, people know this generally, like right now, like there's a teacher shortage. And I think especially with COVID, that has exacerbated that, and as Indy mentioned, like in the previous article, like the average wage, at median wage for early childhood teachers, like assuming if they work in a daycare, is $13 an hour. That's barely like, that's not even really a living wage, really, at all. So you expect teachers to, as Indy said, change diapers, feed them, clothe them, educate them, ensure that they have, the education, which is very critical, as experts say, in the younger years, that this is how we are thinking and this is how we're treating, the education, early childhood workforce.
Well, wait a minute, Collin. I'm sorry, I got to interrupt you because it's not just you're kind of like, it sounds almost disconnected. Education, they give these kids love. They treat these kids like they're their own. Right. At least in my place, they treat my kids like they're their own. They wipe noses. They really look out for the kids. It's not like a public school kind of thing. These are really, really young children, and they treat them, they mommy them, and they need that in a lot of ways. So I mean, it's a lot more than just an educator.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Right, Indy,
sorry.
But I think, you're right. But I think for me, it's kind of like I am a little disconnected by it because, in a sense, because I've been in the field now coming into 20 years now. And when you do all of that out of love, and essentially when people essentially treat you like a low-wage babysitter, it's very hard to not necessarily feel disenchanted or disengaged from it, especially given that these workers are not getting the support that they should be getting. But I'll go more into that. I'll finish the article though. Hiring so many teachers and staff is going to take time. Some states and localities that currently fund some form of public preschool, like West Virginia and Washington, D.C., already report teacher shortages. The average number of college graduates who completed teacher preparation programs fell 24% between the 2009-10 and 2018-19 academic years, according to the American Associations of Colleges for Teacher Education. If the federal dollars boost up to pre-K enrollment overall, that could lead to a hiring crunch, potentially leading to shortages and a surge of novice and uncertified teachers, especially in low-income communities, he added.
Okay.
I think that is
I think that's it.
So, okay. So basically, there's more to the article. I'll link it to the chat if anyone is interested in reading it. But basically, the issue with Build Back Better, was the government was only going to fund 6 years worth of basically universal pre-K for states to opt in. And then, so basically, as far as I understand it, the government will give the majority of the money, but then over the course of during those 6 years, they'll give less and less to essentially where the states have to kind of pick up the slack. So if you live in a poor state, you know, usually like in the red states, they're not necessarily going to have the money to pull out of their resources to give universal pre-K that way. So that was one of the major issues with universal pre-K regarding the Build Back Better bill that, you know, that people weren't necessarily talking about. But what I was basically screaming to the top of my lungs regarding this, and I think this kind of goes back to the intersectionality between healthcare, wages, you know, like these are the things that we're fighting for the squad and basically all the Democrats to do. You know, many of these daycares are family daycares, so they may not have the finances to afford to give their staff health insurance. If you had universal health care, if you had Medicare for all, that would be one less thing that daycares would have to worry about, that you could afford to give them your staff higher wages, if not hire more staff, because that's one less thing that you have to worry about. You talk about, you know, education, you know, like, in fact, you know, I went to Boston College for undergrad. When I was there back in the early 2000s, there was an early education program for undergraduates. That program does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
So I think basically due to, you know, low enrollment in these programs, because typically early childhood does not pay well unless you end up at a public school where they may have pre-K. You know, you're not going to get a lot of money necessarily if you work in a family or a licensed childcare center. So that's number two. So the fact that people are talking about low wages, which again kind of leads into, you know, $15 minimum minimum wage, which is really not enough, but that would account, you know, for the instances where teachers, early childhood educators are, there's a staff shortage. And I'm sure, you know, as we probably can guess, you know, the pandemic exacerbated a lot of that. But I think the other thing, most importantly, like, especially for people who are college educated, you know, they have student loan debt. You know, so if you're making low wages and you're trying to pay off your student loans, you know, like you can't necessarily justify that.
Yeah.
And like my thing is like Jill Biden, she's an educator. Like I would be expecting her to make this a primary issue of hers. You know, like, yeah, I get it. Like she's currently teaching, you know, that's so whatever, but you would think that she would be a bigger advocate for teachers, you know, especially for something like this, you know, that, you know, like we know that children who are going to having this kind of care and attention early enough, especially in low income areas, are much more successful in school overall, which could lead to, you know, greater outcomes as far as, you know, being a more valuable workforce down the road when they're adults. So the fact that even our administration is not, especially since our first lady is an educator and is not addressing this, you know, that's a huge issue for me. And these were issues that I was screaming at the top of my lungs for Build Back Better that nobody was paying attention to. People were just like, oh yeah, well, we'll get more pre-K so I can send my child, you know, to a daycare and I can go to work and no problem. Well, for the most part, but then no one's talking about the teachers and what they have to go through and what they have to suffer through in order to, you know, have these daycare centers running, being able to work these jobs for very little pay and not much to show for it. And teachers are stressed out and burnt out and are leaving the profession in droves. So there's a lot that I could say in amount to that, but, you know, but again, just the idea of striking, this should not have been one day, you know, like, and I think especially since, you know, this is daycares, if they went on strike for 2 weeks, maybe, you're going to get attention.
Ooh.
So could you imagine how many families, especially if they're working families, would be like, you need to do something because I can't stay home.
Yeah.
So the idea that they're doing this just for one day to make a statement, again, as I said last week, any type of protest or action, I'm all for, but you have to be strategic. Like doing stuff for one day is not going to make a dent. It has to be prolonged and it has to be, sustainable so that you hurt people's bank accounts. Or in this case, unfortunately, it's not that you're wanting to hurt the parents, but you're trying to bring attention to it to our government, who, especially the Democrats, have treated universal pre-K as a necessary thing.
Yeah.
Put them accountable and put them on blast to say, these are issues that you're not speaking to regarding to Build Back Better or universal pre-K in general. So we need you to address this in order for us to continue working in these in this industry. So
Jesse, you have one of those
and all that money and all those I was going to say, but all that money and all those new educators, that doesn't necessarily mean that the wage is going to be raised. It just means they're going to flood the market with more of them. Like you said, unqualified, which are mostly going to end up to the lower income areas. It's actually going to end up further creating a divide, potentially.
What's your thoughts, Jesse?
God, I mean, it is hard. It's hard to find that fine line between making enough of a statement and doing something that's going to adversely impact the parents of those kids and cause people to potentially lose their jobs. And of course, that's any strike, that you have to just put enough time in it to make sure that you have a safety net for people to be able to ride this out with you.
Right.
I would think if there is something that has a chance of making some decent impact in one day, it's something as important as childcare. If a whole bunch of people have one day where they have to figure out what the fuck they're going to do and how they can get to work, that does show you, God, can you imagine if this was a whole week or 2 weeks of this? That would put that in people's heads. At least right. I know, we're lucky enough that we are near my wife's parents and they're able to help. If not, then we'd be paying a good bit of our monthly income to try to have childcare. And if we couldn't have that, we would be fucked. I'm sure that's a lot of people. If you don't have, means of someone to care for your child,
watch your kids,
you can't work,
Yeah.
And you know what? After the pandemic, for 2 years, we've had shutdowns and school quarantines, and one day to us, that's like, okay, that's like a sniffle at this point. Come on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the effect. On top of the fact that most of the people, again, you have educators that would have participated, that they did not do enough of a job to get the word out publicly, and I'm sure corporate media did a great job in suppressing that word of mouth. Is there a union nationwide for early educators? I don't even know.
No, there isn't.
Collin?
No, please.
There should be.
No.
Yeah.
No. Right. No. But
there's a teachers union. They're very powerful.
Again, that's for public schools.
Yeah.
Many
Child
lot of daycares are either privately
yeah.
owned or privatized.
Yeah.
So,
or they're clergy owned as well. A lot of them are run by
churches,
by churches and temples. Sure.
Right.
Well, Yepex in the chat says that they love me some Jesse Jett. Cynic agreeing. Which Jesse Jett did have something to bring to us this evening, that I wanted to make sure we get to, so that people get a nice little treat, little premieresies,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Jesse, hopefully you're ready.
I am. I'm so ready.
Okay.
And this ended up being a bit of a beast too. I didn't intend on it being very long, in fact, which is why I called it 2 and 20, being the time limit on a Twitter video.
Gotcha.
Something that I have gotten down to a bit of a science of getting a song right at that line. I have several songs that I got right at the 220 mark. And I
Great.
intended for this to be one of those, because my main intent was to just kind of get the engine going, rip on Jordan Sheraton, and then shut it down. And once I got going, I kept going, and the next thing you know, we're talking Hillary Clinton. Next thing you know, we're all over the place, and it became one of the longer things I've written before. And there's definitely some lines in here I'm extremely proud of.
Nice.
So yeah, here we go. You got it ready to roll, it looks like. So
Yep.
This is 2 and 20. Give me 2 and 20. Humor me my humble talents. Let me weep a little bit too openly for those we're leaving hungry, hanging in the balance, hanging lifeless in the eagle's talons, wrapped in lines a dozen times around their local food drives, just to find they're only serving heaps of mayo peed up by the gallon, with a hearty double scoop of Biden's word salad. 'Cause Joe's prepared a couple words in no specific order to commemorate imaginary victories, and it must be a taste that you acquire from the Democratic palate. 'Cause I find nothing pleasing, sweet, or nourishing, or valid. But here comes Jordan Sheraton and all his stunted clones to take that tired Democratic tune and put it to the music of a patriotic ballad. Something that inspires you to cough up $20 and vote for 4 more years of civil servants telling you you're greedy because you didn't cream your jeans to see their flaccid snail-paced climate action. Sorry, I was not impressed enough to go line up to have my turn to chug directly from the liberal vat of brunch relaxants. Sorry, I still have a scrap of morals, so I couldn't sleep at night to know I led the working class into the slaughterhouse through promise of a greener pasture. Actually, I take it back. I'm never sorry. I would rather eat my fucking tongue than write a word that served those greedy bastards. I guess that the fundamental difference in what all too often passes as a journalist is just how swiftly some will seek to satisfy their masters. And by some, I mean the only ones they tell you truly matter. I mean the only ones they don't outright erase or bury under peals of laughter. I mean the only ones who speak a truth that we may not embrace until we're in too deep to hope escaping our disaster. I mean the ones who seek to break the spell and try to name the casters, who shouldn't need remind you that they have they have numbers and addresses and are each of them disgustingly deserving of the kind of mortal fear the roar of riot brings and blesses. With conviction like a pastor, we didn't start the fire, but we came to fan the downfall faster. Give me 2 and 20. I'll be sharp and quick and funny. Then I'll scream myself bloody when you play that fucker backwards. All the world's a stage and the theater's belching flames, but really what's more entertaining than a playhouse full of lively actors? Smoke gets in your eyes like a diversion tactic. Tacitly you lapse a little, lax your guard, and last thing you'll remember is your faction being fractured and dismembered into fractions, flecks, and fragments. Last thing you'll remember is an ugly dream of fascists filling every fucking cabinet. The last thing you'll remember is the travesty that Amnesty's Assange support was just this side of abstinence. The last thing you'll remember as a member of an audience that never pays attention is the overwhelming feeling that regardless, you're all captive in the captured sense. So none of you can notice if the words that you hear spoken don't match up to what the caption says. In the end, the greatest coup was folks like Jordan using you till you think revolution's waiting just beneath the surface of the tar pit that our democratic status is. In the end, the sound of all these propagandists buzzing from their hottest steaming takes to imperialist sweet nothings will all metastasize into a static cyst. And once you see the obfuscation calcified before you, you might look at it a moment and think, how could we let that exist? How could we have struggled just to breathe beneath the weight of all this cancer bearing down on us, and all we did was scream resist? Nonetheless, the warmonger queen persists. She's reducing men and global power to a simple list. Who can keep a pedophile's secret versus who might need a little help to slow their lips? Who might need a visit in their cell so there's no risk that when they take the stand, they magically remember every trip they took to Little St. James or every place they ever shook Podesta's hand? Who among us knows how many times our flag has flown above the stage where a molester stands? Only Clinton's shadow knows. Only Clinton's fixer, probably bitter still from Navarone. Only Clinton's cult who worship BlackRock because they have a home.
Give me 2 and 20. I'll produce them each a catacomb. And I'm aware in doing so I roll the dice, so each might be the final time I walk inside and tell my son that daddy's home. Give me 2 and 20. I can eulogize myself and still have plenty left to shred on Ken and Jordan, Jenk and Jeff, and Bernie, Nina, Nancy, AOC, and Chuck and Joe and fucking TYT, and every Twitter toddler who assumes that makes me GOP. You won't see me sing on bigger streams. I'll snap your platform right in two. Just give me 2 and 20. Here's the worst that I could do. There you have it.
Oh, good shit, dude.
Nice.
Oz said it was awesome. What's up, Oz?
Shout out to Oz.
Yepex is wondering if Jesse's working on a new album.
I am. I went from being like a little over the halfway point to I wrote like 4 more things for it. So now I just hit the halfway point again. But we're halfway done. So
the grift is almost here.
Stop adding. Yeah, just gotta stop adding more shit to it.
Right. Oh, so I gotta get back to our slideshow.
Yeah, and I need to book out because I gotta get up at 5.
No worries, bro.
Yeah, but I love you guys. Thanks for
yes, sir.
Tree box. Thanks, man. Love you, man. Good to see you.
Have a good night, guys.
You too.
Bye.
Later,
Bye,
man.
chat. Thank you guys too. Love you guys. Good night.
Bye. Bye-bye. Oh, why are these wrong? Oh, hold on.
Oh.
What happened was OBS decided.
Am I Care Bear?
OBS decided. No, it's not that. That's fine. What I have to do is go into my Zoom capture.
I'm just watching
my
Zoom.
monitor's changed, right? And I should do this in studio mode so that gets the cam feed. Let me go to a single here. There we go. So people can at least see me while I fix things. Right? And then this one needs to go to display 2 instead. And then this one needs to go to display 2. All my displays changed, so that's why it's weird. But anyway, we're good now. So let me go back to the slideshow and bring up this right here. So, was that your Will Smith laugh?
Well, Charles Booker does look a little like Will Smith.
Doesn't he? So
Kind of.
Collin wanted to rant again. I think this is a reoccurring segment on our show, that, especially when Collin joins, that he wants to rant about something. So I'll let you take the floor a bit here. So if you want.
So normally these rants, I guess, if this is going to be a segment, usually come up from something regarding political news that I just kind of resonate with. And one of the issues I think for us doing this weekly is we're usually not able to report on stuff, right away. When a lot of other streamers who do this every day are able to do. So, however, the advantage that I think we have is that, after a few days when things kind of settle, we're able to kind of bring in another perspective to some of these stories that people may not necessarily talk about. So I think, initially when I was inspired to do this story, there was a lot of connections that I was making that I wanted to bring up for you guys to, make connections with as well. So, but yeah, that being said, so as you guys know from last week, the aid for Ukraine basically passed, unanimously, basically in the House. So Raju tweeted out last week, 368 to 57, House approves massive aid package for Ukraine, sending it to the Senate. A majority of Republicans backed the $40 billion bill. So the no votes were all Republicans. So basically, our squad members basically approved this bill. So if you could go to the next slide.
Yes, sir.
So to give some context to that, so Inside Paper tweeted, I think this was on Friday when I saw this tweet. New alert, GOP Senator Rand Paul blocks quick passage of 40 billion Ukraine aid. To which Charles Booker, who as of yesterday won his primary in Kentucky, so he's going up against Rand Paul for the Senate seat in the fall.
Right.
He tweets out, Rand Paul's actions are shameful. My name is Charles Booker. I'm a lifelong Kentuckian, proud husband, father, and the person who's going to retire Rand Paul this November. Please help me win this race by chipping in today. And so to be fair to Charles, this was either an automated tweet or some intern or whoever was working on his social media account just tweeted this out, because I've been following Booker's tweets for a while, and basically many of his tweets are basically Rand Paul bad.
Right.
So I would think that this was more ornamented than anything else, but the optics of this, especially since Rand Paul was opposed to Ukraine aid, was very suspect.
Right.
I think he's since deleted this tweet.
Yeah.
And then friend of mine, Mo, who lives in the DMV, I've done some, I was involved with him for the March for Medicare for All last year, and then the protest at the Capitol, basically tweeted out after him, so you are pro-war, but Rand effing Paul is less so. Got it. So this actually kind of reminded me of a stream that I happened to watch live 2 years ago where Richard Medhurst talks about foreign policy, and he mentioned Charles Booker way back then, but talking about how, I think especially for a lot of our politicians, and I think you can even include the squad in this, the lack of foreign policy is very concerning, given, how involved the United States is in international politics. So actually we'll clip out, so we'll actually just watch to see what Richard said a couple of years ago regarding Charles Booker in connection to foreign policy.
I have an issue with Booker. I have an issue with Charles Booker. Looks great on the surface, progressive, Medicare for all, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, wonderful. Me, I want to cover him. I want to learn more about him. So I went on his website. I go to his website. There's no foreign policy. Zero. How the fuck are you running for United States Senate and you didn't put foreign policy on your website? You're not running for government in another country. United States, you dictate the world's foreign policy. You're running to be a fucking senator, and I don't know what your foreign policy is. Just go ahead, go look up Charles Booker, Palestine. I can't find a thing. Charles Booker, Syria. I can't find a thing. Charles Booker, AIPAC. Nothing. I go on his website. Nothing. You don't think that's unusual? If that's acceptable to you, we got issues. You see, I'm here to dig through the bullshit. I know he supports Medicare for all. Big fucking deal. I want to know what he supports in terms of sanctions. Is he okay with sanctions that kill people in Venezuela and Iran? Is he okay with sanctions on Syria? Is he okay with no Palestinian state? That's the real shit that I want to know about. This is unacceptable. The United States dictates world affairs. And you're running to be a fucking senator and I don't know what your foreign policy is? This is unacceptable. This tells me that you hiding some shit.
It was interesting, and I actually want to give a shout out to Richard because I started watching him a couple of years ago during the lockdowns when I was home and had not much to do. But he actually brought up something that I thought about, but I think he really brought it to, like more clarity in my mind about the idea that a lot of our politicians, especially those who are running for the House and the Senate, never ever really talk about foreign policy regarding as far as their overall policy measures once they get into office. So actually back then, and actually if you continue watching that clip, Richard shows you what Charles Booker had as far as his policies, like he talked about Medicare for all, and all these other more progressive policies, but nothing regarding foreign policy. So this was when he was running against Mitch McConnell back in 2020. If you look at his website now, actually, there's really no policy at all. He doesn't have anything, regarding Medicare for all, $50 million wage, nothing. The only thing he has is I think something related to the Kentucky New Deal. But there's nothing in regards to his what he stands for. So that he listed on his website. So, so that, I've kind of noticed that, and I've kind of made the connection to the squad, how lacking they themselves are on foreign policy themselves. But before I move on, Reef or Indy, do you have any additions you want to say?
Indy, you want to go?
Wow. So yeah, it's not looking good. I'll say that for sure.
No.
It's out left. I mean, what these guys are supposed to be represent. Look, the Charles Booker thing is Richard's awesome. I mean, I missed the Jimi Hendrix poster in the background. That's the first thing I want to say. But because now he blurs out his background, he's got all those slick RT stuff. But that was old school. That was the Richie that I watched every. We were chat all the time. Discord, it was awesome. Anyway, I reminisce. Another thing about this again was again that yes, it was absolutely suspect, and he right to call it out. Nobody calls it out. Nobody looks at policy on websites. Nobody hears policy discussed by these candidates, and nobody holds them accountable to the policies they say that they support. Again, they support them great, but what are they going to do when it actually comes time to vote? I will defer to Reef because I know Reef has a story that he likes to talk about all the time when he gets in front of a candidate, and I'm sure he'll tell that.
Yeah,
I mean, portion. So
this is the same thing that we continue to worry about necessarily, right? With I mean, generally they don't have an answer to the question of how do they not be co-opted and coerced by the elites to do what they want anyway, whether it's foreign policy or domestic, right? But usually the only answer I get is the same one AOC gave, which is I'm only going to be a one-term candidate. How is that working? Is she a one-term candidate at this point? No. Well, who would have thunk it? But yeah, you were saying
she's going for a third term.
Yep. And will continue to do so. They're now career politicians. And to be a career politician, right, apparently you have to be part of this game of being nice to the elite and powerful to get your crumbs that they won't even give you anyway. They continue to alter deals in that regard. So they win this game. Don't play their shit. Just don't.
But it's funny you say that, Reef, but I think I heard this. I may have been from Crystal Ball. I think that I heard this from or somebody in the space. But basically, the idea is in DC, in Capitol Hill, you get respect essentially by being a dick. That's how Joe Manchin and you can even argue many of the Republicans too. Have as much power as they have because essentially they play the bully, they play to obfuscate and challenge, all these bills or whatever that, is thrown at them. And it's almost like they're rewarded for it. Whereas the squad are basically are little puppies. Not sure why I'm thinking about puppies tonight, but like thinking like, oh, if I just do whatever, the leadership tells me to do, then I'll get what I want, which so far has not worked out for them, but they think that by being nice, that they're able to get the tangibles that they need. And so far, and it hasn't worked. So it's kind of like, when are they going to be the dicks that we elected them essentially to be, Well,
power seeds nothing without a demand, and they have not done anything to actually hold up any legislation or be any type of a threat or any type of adversary at whatsoever to leadership or to the Democratic Party. And look, we covered this pretty extensively on Sunday night, Reef and I, talking about how the Democrats are not representing us. So stop giving money to them. Stop giving money to them. Please, God Almighty, stop giving money to them.
Right.
Yes.
And I mean, basically on Twitter, like people, and we have Marjorie Taylor Greene's tweet, adding AOC regarding, essentially, why did you vote for this bill?
Right. But outlefting
her, we're right wingers now.
Being like, oh, so you're defending, like Rand Paul or Marjorie Taylor Greene. No, it's not the fact that we're defending them, but at the end of the day, they voted correctly.
Yeah, broken clocks, like, yada yada, but I'll still take it.
Like, why couldn't the squad?
Yeah, but the only
like
my contention is that they would, if this were a Republican, they would never have voted against this. They did this because this is Joe Biden and Ukraine and Hunter, and it fits their narrative, and it doesn't cost them anything because they know it's going to pass, and the military is going to, again, performative. Agreed. Yeah. Why didn't the squad do that? Who knows? Because they got bullied. Clearly, they got threatened. Right? Isn't that what we heard? We heard they got threatened.
I'll definitely get to that, but then I'll definitely will get to that. But shout out to Ryan Knight. I actually, over the weekend when I was putting this segment together, I actually found like a snippet of Cori Bush's statement regarding her vote. But since then I was able to pull the whole thing. And I think it's important to pull the whole thing because basically what I saw the tweet was, she was like, I'm concerned about this, but reading the whole thing, I think just kind of makes her actions against voting for this bill especially heinous. So I'll read what she wrote. This evening I voted in support of...
Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. This evening I voted in support of the Ukraine supplemental aid package to provide assistance to Ukrainians who are resisting Russian aggression with a heroic amount of resolve and unrelenting resilience. As the murderous Putin regime desperately accelerates its brutality in Ukraine, my vote today was one to strengthen the Ukrainian people's fight against oppression and tyranny. All people deserve their right to self-determination. As this conflict progresses, its ramifications will spread beyond Ukraine. Indeed, many other countries rely on Russia and Ukraine for a significant percentage of their wheat, fertilizer, and vegetable oil imports. This bill directly responds to this looming crisis by providing $4.45 billion to provide emergency food assistance to people around the world suffering from hunger as a result of the conflict in Ukraine. Similarly, this legislation provides critical funding for refugee settlements and diplomatic support. Yeah, right. Next slide.
Yes, sir.
Recently, I introduced the Energy Security and Independence Act to build renewable energy capacity using the Defense Production Act. I urge the Biden administration to utilize the authorized $600 million to invest in renewable energy and heat pumps to help lower utility prices for American families and create reliable energy sources. So I'm actually going to pause there.
Okay.
Because she basically was like, oh, I voted for this bill for these reasons. And then I put in this bill, to kind of offset, her vote. Like, Cori, if you really felt this strongly about this bill, why are you promoting it more?
Right.
You know, like, why are you screaming at the top of your lungs about this, especially knowing like we're giving all these money to Ukraine, and yet when Franco asked you and AOC back over the summer, you know, as far as the housing moratorium, you know, like how we're going to help people with their back rent, you guys were like, oh, we're working on it, you know?
Right.
Well, when I screamed out, what about the 10% who were going to get evicted from their homes anyway, you know, you turned on the music on blast to drown me and Franco out. So if you really were concerned about this bill that you introduced in the House, you haven't tweeted about it, you haven't mentioned anything about this, you know, in mainstream media. And actually thinking about this now, if you did that, you know, like you actually would be looked upon highly because that's what people are struggling with right now. You would actually be like you'll get positive press because you're talking about something that actually helps the American people. So the fact that she hasn't, you know, I think just kind of speaks to a cowardice here. I'll continue though, reading this.
Yep.
Additionally, at $40 billion, this is an extraordinary amount of military assistance, a large percent of which will go directly to private defense contractors. In the last year alone, the United States will have provided Ukraine with more military aid than any country in the last 2 decades, and twice as much military assistance as the yearly cost of war in Afghanistan, even when American troops were on the ground. The sheer size of the package given and an already inflated Pentagon budget should not go without critique. I remain concerned about the increasing risks of direct war and the potential for direct military confrontation. This moment of crisis demands that we respond to the looming humanitarian and climate catastrophe with clear goals. The billions in funding for
and a strongly worded letter.
Basically.
Sorry.
The billions in funding for food security and humanitarian relief are important steps towards achieving that outcome, as are the bill's substantive actions to directly aid the Ukrainian people in their fight against Putin's authoritarianism. So all that to basically say, you know, I voted for it, but I'm against it. Or I have concerns about it. So if she was concerned about it, why do you vote for it, Corey? AOC, Ilhan Omar, Ro Khanna. So it's so funny that we're posting about Jordan now, given like I posted it, like I set this up on Monday, and since you know he has gone off the rails again, but he had a lot to say regarding Nina Turner, regarding her loss, her Senate race, her congressional race a couple of weeks ago. But he mentioned, so I mean, I'm going to be very fair to Jordan here. Like, he was right on this issue regarding the squad and the reason why they didn't, you know, endorse Nina Turner, except for AOC and the 11th hour when it really didn't mean anything.
Right.
So I think it's very interesting considering the lack of play that this portion of his live stream went. I think the only person who I believe did report on this clip was Savvy. But yeah, if you play it, it will probably give, well, I think it's without question, like why the squad are voting the way they did. But I think this will just bring it more to light as to why they voted, you know, for this Ukrainian funding.
I said last night they were threatened. The squad was threatened not to support her. Well, I could tell you, based on a few conversations I've had, and not directly with Nina, Cori Bush and some others were threatened, not physically, but threats. You know, if you support Nina Turner, the Democratic establishment, we're going to be sending out the bat signals to super PACs to go against you in your re-elections. Cori Bush is up for re-election in a tough primary in St. Louis. That if you support Nina Turner, we are going to make sure that big money is against you. You will not have the Congressional Black Caucus endorsement, and we will be coming hard for you. That I know for sure happened. And you want to know something? It's still no excuse not to support Nina Turner. What you do when you're being threatened by corporate villain bullies is you punch back. What any of these squad members should be doing if they're being threatened, that we're going to come after you in this election if you support Nina Turner, blah, 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 is you have your press people contact CNN,
Are we hot, Mike?
MSNBC,
yes.
hell, Fox News, whatever it is, because they cannot resist. They cannot resist Dem Party fighting. They love that story. Democrat Party disarray. And you say Congresswoman Bush would like to come on to reveal threats she's getting for the Democratic Party, not to support Nina Turner. You would be called back in 5 minutes. You want to know how I know? Because I worked for these corporate outlets.
Oh, did you now?
They favor conflict and fighting way more than anything else because it's good for ratings.
What have you been doing lately?
You put them on blast publicly. You put them on blast publicly. That
sounds like what somebody's been doing.
Threatening you. They're threatening to come after you if you support Nina Turner. And you know what that does? Number one, it actually helps you in your election if you're truly worried about your election, because it rallies your base of supporters and activists to stick with you because you stuck with Nina.
Yeah, you stuck with her.
It gets media attention.
Yeah, it does.
It puts the whomever, whether it's the Congressional Black Caucus,
whomever,
Nancy Pelosi, whatever.
Yeah.
It puts pressure on them. It puts them on blast.
And how does it put pressure on them?
It rallies your troops in St. Louis, or if you're Rashida Tlaib in Detroit, or if you're Ilhan Omar in Minnesota. And the other thing it does is it rallies the troops behind Nina Turner. Because when the progressive movement nationally sees, all right, finally these fucking squad members are actually going at the Democratic Party. They're calling it out. It excites people. It makes people want to get involved, not only with the squad's campaigns, but Nina's campaign. The progressive movement isn't asking you to be perfect. They're not asking you to get us Medicare for all by week's end. They're asking you for one simple thing, to fight. Not to roll up into a ball because the Democratic Party establishment or the Congressional Black Caucus or whomever the fuck it is threatening you.
He believes in nothing. He believes in nothing. Nihilist Jordan Chariton. We believe it. Give us the money, Lebowski.
I did a 45-minute rant on nihilism, and defeatism. So if you find it on our page, you'll find it. That's, I think, a worthwhile clip to watch.
wanted to weigh in.
The idea of people on the left being nihilists or defeatists.
Yes.
You know, in terms of our government and the squad or whatever. But
we just put that clip out. Oz wanted to weigh in real quick. He's saying things that are common knowledge for decades about how the dim establishment rolls. He's also leaving out points to his solution. So, and he's a real tough guy sitting in his car. I was concerned for his safety. You're not supposed to like stream like that. He like looks at camera too, like, bro, road eyes
while driving.
Eyes.
Yes, yeah, that's dangerous. That is dangerous.
He had a cameraman, though, I believe, who's sitting in the passenger seat. So.
Well, great.
No,
he can't drive the car though. Like,
yeah.
Jordan has to look at the
Right.
road to drive the car.
He should have a driver.
He should have a driver, and then he will like film himself in the. But anyway, I digress.
But all of
bootstrap.
that. Yeah, I mean, but all of that to say, you know, like, okay, Jordan has made some shit lip points. Unfortunately, he made them today and yesterday into today.
Yep.
You know, so, but I think for this, we have to give him props here, you know, just as far as, you know, replace what he said about Nina Turner with Ukraine aid. And you can, and it's still the very much, still like, the same thought applies. You know, you should, like, squad members should not be out-lefted, Bernie included, by Rand Paul and Marjorie Taylor Greene on this issue. Yeah, we know, like, it's performative on the Republicans and basically to, you know, own the Democrats, essentially, you know, especially the squad, you know, but the squad should have been ahead of this, especially, like, if it was going to pass anyway.
Yeah.
Why not do a performative no? You know, like, so right now you're on record for basically funding more money to Ukraine when, as Corey said, according to her, we have issues with energy here.
Yeah.
You know, and I happened to watch this clip. And I know Lucy also watched this clip live when Savvy, you know, showed this clip. You know, someone in her community made a good point, you know, as far as the fact that, you know, the squad, they're after generational wealth at this point, you know, because, you know, as Reef said, you know, AOC is running for her third term, you know, like, how many terms do you have to run in order for you to get your congressional benefits?
Right.
5?
Yeah.
5 years. So at least for AOC, she's pretty close to that right now. And then the other squad members are falling in line behind that, you know? So right now they're just more worried about, you know, the wealth for themselves. So as far as their careers over the needs of the people, you know? So we have to call it Lucy
Well,
again.
I will say one thing that, especially AOC, the day she steps out of Congress, she's set for life. Okay, she's going to be wealthier leaving Congress than she ever will be in Congress, because she's going to be a mega celebrity and people will back up Brinks trucks full of money to throw at her to be on her show, to represent their product, to do whatever it is that she will be able to write her own ticket.
Right. And you know what? I didn't mention this, but Charles Booker has a book out. Like, he already has a book out. You know, I was like, I thought you have to be in Congress in order to get a book. So, you know, like, so really for a lot of these politicians, it's really about their personal gain, you know, like it within the system to just become part of that class at the detriment to us in the working class, you know? So Lucy, you know, shout out to her once again, you know, she tweeted out, so I learned on Savvy that the only threat the fraud squad received for non-compliance was not getting back from another term by establishment. Not that threat, no violence. That's what they consider a threat. Does that sound like a threat to you? I mean, like, if not being financially secure for the rest of my life, I would probably consider that a threat, but you know, but that's not what AOC herself talked about, you know, wanting to be. So this is one last slide I pulled up like a few minutes before we went live. I know we've probably seen this clip many times, especially if you've watched Jimmy Dore, but you know, back when AOC was the darling on the left, you know, and she was saying the right shit, you know, this is what she said. Play the clip.
No sound.
No sound. You want sound? You say you want sound? Sound would be nice,
literally
you
at literally from.
There we go.
Thank you, Steph. This is literally from the Justice Democrats Facebook page or YouTube page.
Don't people realize that the most powerful position you can be in is when you are
Missionary.
not materially
Sorry.
attached to a position of power? If you're a one-term Congress member, so what? You can make 10 years worth of change in one term if you're not afraid.
That sounds like something she wasn't willing to do.
Yeah. You know, so I mean, that's all I got as far as my rant this week.
Well,
you know, but I think it's just
gave us a video treat to look at before we pulled out of this segment. So,
In contrast, Russian elections are rigged. Political opponents are imprisoned or otherwise eliminated from participating in the electoral process. The result is an absence of checks and balances in Russia and the decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of Iraq. I mean, of Ukraine. Iraq. Anyway, 75.
Is that how old he is? 75?
And brutal invasion of Iraq. I mean, of Ukraine.
That's funny. Oh, that's good.
Any final words on Booker, the squad, all this mess?
I mean, again, it's they don't have an answer to my fucking question, which is how the fuck you gonna do any of it? Like, there's no plan. There's no plan. You've communicated no plan of action. No, like, you know, they only give platitudes if they give anything. Like, they only give lip service. Like, but they know, AOC knows what we want. Like, you know, and this leads me to believe that there's no incentive for her to, like, do it. You know, like, I don't, she definitely needs a stick and not this carrot, because the carrot's doing better than us. So
I say we need more squad members.
Sure. Yeah. You know what I think it's about?
Vote harder.
It's all about geometry.
It's all about geometry.
Wow.
It's just geometry.
That's true. That's true, Shaq. It is definitely about geometry.
All
and how much cash can they fit in their bank accounts? That is the geometry I think we're talking about.
You know, they were
because I was tired of paying for weed.
They were tired of paying for weed. So
yeah, but that's too. They don't pay for weed.
Well, I mean, someone's got to. Yes, and but anyway,
Hold on, before we go to our last story of the night, can you pull up the
Yes, hold on.
The thumbnail. My thumbnail.
Yes, your
Yeah. So
our executive producer has weighed in, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So last week, Reef did the amazing Photoshop job of essentially making me into Tenderheart Bear, you know, so
yes.
And he tried to do that again this week, and I was like, no, I'm not going for that this week. It made sense last week because there was actually a Care Bear that had like the black fist in his belly, and I was talking about protesting last week, so that made a lot of sense. Didn't make a lot of sense this week. So I know we have a very small but growing community, but I would love to see if somebody who is artistically minded to create like a super deformed anime version of me as a Care Bear that we can use for our thumbnails whenever I do rants like this.
Yes.
I'm getting excited just thinking about it.
That is
I'm just getting excited thinking about it.
different enough that we could put it on merch and things like that. Like, I'd love to be able to actually make
without
a realistic Collin Care Bear. That's what I want.
Yeah.
You know.
So I want like a super deformed anime chibi style.
Yeah. Make Collin a Care Bear. Just
make
you
me
got
a Care
it.
Bear.
You got it. Do it. Send it to us at get INN, get Indie News. What is it? What's our Twitter?
Do it.
You can find our Twitter in the description below at our link tree.
At Get Indie News, you got it. Get Indie News.
That's it.
It was not Shadowman. It was actually Fred Edward, one of the volunteers for INN, at Airwaves, AER Waves on Twitter, and he says, "I do not believe AOCIA will become quote unquote progressive again if she wins a third term. Creating another excuse for her complicity with the establishment, the NC, is more hope for to keep the status quo."
Oh. So you ready for our last story of the night?
Yeah.
So I brought this on for Lucy, who I hopefully was going to come on, but she decided to magic carpet ride over to someplace 8 hours away, without telling me, and she was like, "That's gonna be like 3 a.m. for me," and I don't think I can do that. But anyway. I still think it's important to cover. So, officials raise concern over Biden's plan to limit student loan cancellation. This is, of course, by Sharon Zhang over at Truth Out. But I wanted to also make sure people knew about, what is it, Camp Dada, that I think is over student debt, or it's attached to that. I think Lucy's trying to have that happen. People should go check out her and the Bank Sisters interview over on Primo Radical. That was really good. Where they talked more in depth about that, but yeah. So
thank you to Primo for giving for shouting out and supporting that action and giving it some light. They're going to be getting together in the Hamptons and doing a camp out. Bunch of activists getting together, talking about solutions, and actually doing some things to make some of those wealthy people a little uncomfortable and a little upset. Nothing dangerous. Nothing that's going to get anybody in big trouble. Just inconvenienced and kind of be a nuisance more than anything. And I think that's going to be hilarious.
Yeah,
I
love
think so
them
too.
for it.
Shut up,
but yeah, people should go check out that Radical video. And Primo, if you ever want everyone on the show, I got a nameplate that says Nutmeg somewhere. I might have to redo that to say, Radical. So, but we'll definitely would love to have you on, bro. Good, you do good shit. Just let us know, reach out. But anyway, so officials raise concern over Biden's plan to limit student loan cancellation, right? So as the Biden administration crafts a plan to cancel some amount of student debt, administration officials are reportedly raising concerns that adding income caps to the plan could be incredibly logistically complicated, risking the efficiency of the entire plan. I think they meant efficacy, whichever one they want.
It is efficacy. That's what it says.
Yeah. Yes. As Politico reports, officials in President Joe Biden's education department are saying in private conversations that it would be extremely difficult for the agency to implement the administration's tentative plan to limit student loan forgiveness by income. The agency simply doesn't have income information for the vast majority of student loan borrowers, sources told Politico. Yeah.
So basically, they're making the case to give a universal amount to every student loan debt holder.
Right. They want to cap it. Yeah.
Right. But it'd be a lot easier to, let's say, give everybody...
Right. No caps and just clear everyone's debt. Right.
Than it would be to be means test the thing.
Right. Well, it's not even a means test it. It's like it's completely circumventing means testing, because this isn't about means. They're just like, doing means testing would be too hard. That's what they said. That means testing would mean.
Well, no, it's not that it would be too expensive.
And it would be
too expensive, and it'd be a lot easier to give it to and it could be a lot easier to give it to everyone, but it'd be more expensive. And we don't really want to do that. So they're probably just going to do nothing in the end. I mean, that to me is what it sounds like. They're setting up to say, we're going to chuck this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But it's also the fact that it's they're literally going, yeah, it'd be too hard. We don't want to do the paperwork. Like they're talking about efficacy and like efficiencies and like they're like, yeah, we just couldn't get it. We just couldn't possibly get it. And everyone's like, yeah, why do you have caps on in the mean? Why are you trying to means test it? Don't means test it. Just cancel student debt. Just cancel it. Just take your pen.
That reminds me of
cancel student debt. Sign Joe Biden, and then give that to somebody. Like,
because the people who funded him his whole career and his whole life would be pretty mad at him, and they would be pretty mad at Hunter, and as a result, and he's not going to, of course, do that. But
so Sharon continues.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We love Sharon.
Again,
it's go ahead.
Oh, fine. I'll go then. If the Biden administration were to place some forms of mean testing on the plan, the education department would be forced to require borrowers to provide proof of their income in some kind of application process. The added step could make it hard to implement the program before the November midterm elections, which of course that's what they care about. If it could be done in that timeline at all. Right? So well,
it's not just why they care about it before November. It's because after that, you've got a lame duck session where half the people don't show up and you can't get enough votes for a quorum or you could potentially have it voted down. And then your legislative session is over and you have to start all over again in January because you get new representatives and senators seated. You have to start over. They have to get this done before November if they're going to get it done.
An education department spokesperson said that the agency is assessing options for broad debt cancellation. The White House has yet to finalize its plan. Earlier this month, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, former press secretary, that Biden is considering limiting debt cancellation to borrowers making less than $125,000 a year. The cap is meant to preempt arguments from conservatives that only the wealthy would benefit from student loan forgiveness, even though those arguments have already been debunked. Earlier this month, a report found that student loan forgiveness would be progressive, meaning that the poorest borrowers would benefit the most. News of the income cap sparked frustration among progressives and debt advocates who have been warning about this exact scenario. They say that applying means testing for the debt forgiveness would not only be unpopular among borrowers, but would also place unnecessary hurdles to the program that could limit access for those who need it most. Advocates for debt forgiveness were already frustrated that Biden will likely only cancel the smart portion of the roughly $1.9 trillion in student loans owed by borrowers.
God, I hear Elizabeth Warren going, we're gonna cut $10,000 of student loan debt for you.
Well, you know,
right? Wasn't that her thing?
No, but here's the thing with Elizabeth Warren that I think people are not necessarily talking about, because I know a lot of people love her. But like she was talking about the idea of canceling student debt up to, 50,000. Like if you really were progressive, like why wouldn't you make the case to start there at minimum 50 versus cap it at that much?
Right.
So that was kind of a sneaky tactic that she took, especially when she was campaigning on that, the idea to cap it at 50, but people, I think people would just like, that just love her, that no one necessarily called her out on that. But I think that just because it shows how like she tries to play progressive, but then but she's also admitted, herself that she is a capitalist through and through. So
well, not only that, she was a Federalist Society member for years. Now she's a Democrat, but she was like a hardcore right-wing Republican, not just a Republican, but she was a staffer at Harvard and a hardcore Republican. Pow wow chow. Shout out to Elizabeth Warren. Again, I got fooled. I got snowed. That was the first political campaign I ever donated to in my life, was Warren for Senate 2012. You want to talk about shit lib? Raise my hand. I was one. Yes, folks, I was one too. We all were at some point. This is how we got here. First, we followed these clowns. Well, no, a lot of us followed these clowns first. Either it was Obama or it was somebody. We got sucked in, And we realized, wow, these guys are just a bunch of fucking lying corporate tools that do exactly what Republicans do, but say they do something different.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here. Labels are bad, stay independent.
Right. The simplest way to implement student debt cancellation is to make it fully automatic and universal. Braxton Brewington, debt collector spokesperson, said in a statement, forcing millions to apply for the rightfully owed cancellation will exclude the exact borrowers. A targeted approach claims to help. If Biden needs reminding that burying borrowers and the education department in paperwork is widely ineffective, he can look no further than the 99% denial rate of current programs like public service loan forgiveness or the PSLF program. So indeed.
Shout out to Braxton Brewington. I love that name. We did a Braxton Brewington story about 3 weeks ago. He wrote something on student debt in Truth Out. So definitely go read that. And I just remember it because you said the name, and I was like, wow, if nothing else, I'm just glad we did a story because it was a Braxton Brewington. What a great name. So keep going. PSLF
Indeed.
program.
The PSLF program is supposed to allow public service workers like teachers to apply for student loan forgiveness after a decade on the job. But the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, found in 2019 that the program is completely burdened by its eligibility requirements, leading it to reject nearly every application it receives. Melissa Emery, heiress, who led work on the GAO report, called it a bureaucratic nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. And this is kind of what I was kind of alluding to earlier regarding, like student loan debt as far as, like early childhood workers, they wouldn't be able to apply for this, number one. But then like, even if you're a public school teacher, like I have to check at it because I actually tried to go for it myself because I would be pretty close at this point under normal circumstances to have it forgiven outright, but part of the process includes having to work at a Title I school.
Yeah.
I haven't worked at a Title I school all of my career. So, so because of that, I would be, if I were to apply, I think I would be able to apply for it like within 2 years. I would get rejected outright because right now I don't work at a Title I school. So basically, and I think I mentioned this on our student loan debt summit, like that's essentially why, and like people are like, well, why did you go into become a teacher or whatever else? Because we were told that like, if you work for 10 years, you'll have your loans forgiven. But there was a lot of red tape that people did not necessarily talk about, that like, you have to work at this type of school, you have to make this type of income, like whatever else, that rejects the fair majority of teachers who apply to have their loans forgiven. And depending on circumstances, just personal circumstances, like you're lucky if you're even teaching at a school for 3 years, much less 10.
Yeah.
The average teacher who goes into the field leaves within 3. So 3 to 5. So for many teachers, especially if you're new entering the field, like you will never have that option to even come close to having your loan forgiveness because you might be out of the field way before that. So
the sacrifices they want you to make are just ridiculous. No other industry, no other profession is requiring you to make those type of financial and career and life sacrifices by putting other important life decisions and things on hold because you're not going to be able to afford to do them working as an early childhood educator, for example.
Right.
Right.
And so I make the case, as far as, like people are like, well, why become a teacher? Then, you should do another job where you're able to make more money, whatever else. But then like, oh, you can just go to a community school and get a trade or whatever. Like, what if you're not necessarily gifted to like fix a car?
Right.
And then like a lot of these, and I think Bianjo Ray brought this up, like a lot of, these blue collar jobs, you'll have a 2-tier workforce where like a lot of the lower, like more hands-on jobs would be done by typically, people of color or of the working class. And these upper class jobs, like lawyers, doctors, whatever, probably even teachers too, will be worked by people who can afford to go to college. You, more often than not, the elite, usually white. So you're going to have that disparity there. Like, if people were trying to live within their means or like don't go to college just simply for the fact that they're going into debt, like it's going to be a very apparent that like only the rich can afford to be a lawyer. Only the rich can afford to be a doctor or a teacher, whatever, so there's just something very messed up, in thinking about, our society in that way.
Yeah.
But again, as far as the PSLF, like it's a nightmare for teachers who I know who have had to do it because there's just so much red tape and most of them get rejected anyway, if assuming that they're able to work in the field for a decade or more.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so it continues. If broader student loan cancellation were implemented in a similar way, it could backfire on the Democratic Party, which is eager to win over voters before the midterms. The majority of Americans support some form of student loan forgiveness, and polls have found that student loan forgiveness could help drive people who are likely to vote Dem to the polls in the fall. A means-tested program, meanwhile, could make the idea less popular. The landmines are everywhere. Bryce McKibben, former policy advisor to Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee member Senator Sin Patty Murray, right, of Washington, told Politico their options are an income cap and political train wreck, or no income cap and broader automatic base relief for everyone. That's not a lot in between. Yeah, it's all or nothing. Yes. We want all, not nothing. Progressive representatives Mondaire Jones and Ayanna Pressley also told the publication that the cancellation should be broad and reach as many people as possible, as Presley said. So, closing thoughts here.
I mentioned this in our group, Fred, but those of you who know me, I am a teacher advocate in DC, so I work for a teacher advocacy group.
Yeah.
And I just found out actually today that Jamal Bowman is actually going to speak at this event. Now, my executive director knows my stances. He knows what I did at the Capitol. So, and actually, like, he kind of said, I understand why you were protesting against AOC Cori Bush, but on the other hand, like, he also kind of mentioned to his mind, they're doing what they can, because he generally likes the squad.
Doesn't know, yeah.
Yeah, so like, so we definitely have, different views as far as politics, so my concern is like, obviously, like, well, given the fact that Jamal Bowman was an educator himself, like, obviously I will be nice, but, I will relate, like any questions to him that I would ask him to education. And I think especially something like this, the idea like teachers are leaving the field a lot quicker now, especially given the pandemic. They're leaving the field at a lot faster rate. How is the government planning to incentivize, teachers to be willing to stay into the field? And what is he and the squad going to advocate for to ensure that that happens? So those are the questions I definitely will plan to go. And I hope to kind of tape it that we can probably make it an exclusive here.
Yeah. Well, and public tuition free, like, or at least state funded, like any of those things, or
right. But I feel like, especially the squad, they say a lot on Twitter, like cancel student debt, cancel all student debt. So So for me, it would be the idea of being able to speak to a squad member and being like, look, these are issues that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
What's your plan and how
To
you're
get them
going
done.
to hold, our politicians accountable. But then I think the bigger question is, how are you going to fight against corporate interests that are preventing the squad and like the establishment Democrats to do the right thing for for people, especially who've gone to college, so that's what I hope to do. But it just kind of speaks to we know this, like, mean tested bullshit basically doesn't work. Just give everybody, just cancel it. Just cancel it all. Like,
would be
we know
nice.
we're not going to do it, but cancel it all.
And again, I am a big advocate for canceling it all. The question is how do you compensate everybody moving forward without it? How do you pay every teacher's salary? How do you pay everyone? I mean, the government just picks up the tab for all of it, for everything, all the time, forever. Look, they've put it on the students. I don't know what the answer is.
I don't know what the answer is either, but I don't
asking.
think we should stop there. You can cancel all student debt, but it doesn't. And I agree with certain people, many people who say that doesn't get to the root of the problem. And those are continuing discussions that we need to have. I will strongly admit, for here, like, canceling all student debt is just really a Band-Aid for a larger problem that needs to be addressed as far as, how we educate, students in this country. But how can we have means where students have options where they're not in debt for basically for the rest of their lives past their death, that they're paying off these loans back, so like.
Well, a lot of times they should pay it off in trade or in work, in service time, etc. With public service. I think that is one way to do it. Look, how does every other first world nation manage to give healthcare to all of their citizens? Okay, fund all that, and in a lot of cases, education. All right, they prioritize that. First of all, they don't have this massively bloated military budget that takes up, a sixth or whatever percentage of the total GDP. So we definitely, again, I think we all are in agreement that military reduction in order to subsidize the cost of what it would take to fund education. I believe the number was something to the tune of $70 billion a year would fund education. On top of the fact that you have a lot of these private institutions that have massive endowments, they're not going to go away, but they would have to make them tuition free.
Right.
Or we could just.
That's effectively.
Print it.
Burn it all down.
Just print it. You can just print the money. Print it. Give the money.
Count the money.
Count the money.
Demonet.
It's all about geometry.
It is all about geometry. But anyway, I think that's it for the week, isn't it? We got plug stuff. I know we got to do that. Misty's doing a show Friday, sounds like. Do a little bitch session with Misty. Yep. So hopefully you'll see us on there. That'll be fun to do.
Oh, that's Friday. I thought it was going to be tonight. Cool. Okay.
No, I think it's Friday. So, but other than that, I've got.
How do we miss that Sunday? Yep.
I know Jesse said he wants to come on with Friday and for Reef After Dark, so I'll figure that out. Someone's got to peer pressure Spooky into joining me. She's all shy. So
Cheryl. Come on, Cheryl. We want to see you on stream, Cheryl. Come on.
But otherwise, I'll figure out some stuff, so stay tuned for that. What's up Thursday? Warren, right? Who's he got coming up? Anybody?
Extra Booyah. I don't know. He hasn't sent me the info yet for his stream for tomorrow, so we'll find out. It's a mystery at the moment.
Yeah.
Shadowban did say, dog, thanks. I appreciate that for us shout him out and putting his info on the ProAct in tonight's show.
It was good, man.
So Sunday night, we're gonna have How Do We Miss That? Saturday night, we'll be co-streaming the Political Matrix onto our Rockfin channel.
Yep.
And Monday night, we're going to have Tara is going to be doing an interview with Kevin Gostola at 10 o'clock, and she has one scheduled for 9:30 Eastern. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen with that. We're working on the details, so stay tuned there. And we'll be back next Wednesday. Oh, next Tuesday night.
Stay tuned for whatever video we manage to pull off Colin's trip to, educating Bowman. That'll be fun. So
yeah, I think that the awards dinner, I'm trying to remember, I think it's June 10th, so it won't be for a while.
Okay.
But yeah, I definitely will plan and go, and hopefully, as I said, that could be exclusive to the network, just whatever Bowman says, and then whatever questions I get to ask him.
Great.
Have camera in hand and hear what
Bring
he
the
has to
tripod even would be dope. Get that little selfie stick out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yo, sir.
Yeah.
Sir. But anyway, I think that's it.
We need to get a
What else
mic
am I
flag.
missing?
We need a mic flag. We need a mic flag for Collin for that.
Yeah.
Little INN thing.
Well, just put like a Care Bear balloon on it, But anyway,
yeah, I think one thing before we go, like Reef and I basically curate these stories, and then obviously if we have guests like Indy tonight, gave us our story, a strike story, but we definitely want to hear from, as I said, we have a growing base, so definitely subscribe to us, by the way, we've been growing very steadily over the last few weeks, so we definitely are appreciative of folks who are kind of tuning into the network and getting to know us, but we hope to kind of build the community just as far as so we get more feedback from you guys. So if there are any particular stories that you want us to cover, let us know in our Twitter handles or whatever on or connect with us here, so that, we want this to be as much as about you, as much as the stories that we are passionate about, or what kind of the hot topics, within political news, or just news in general, over the course of the week. So, but we definitely want to hear stories that we don't necessarily get to hear from, often. So,
yeah. Plus, occasionally we beat some people to those. Those are always nice. You know?
Yeah. It's just always nice to hear, just kind of not be in the echo chamber of kind of repeating points when we have people from different diverse backgrounds and different countries, areas of the country, whatever, that have a story that is not talked about that, we want to highlight too. So let us know if those stories, any story that of that should be highlighted. We'll love to feature them and feature you. In this time as well.
Well, what's my line? Labels are bad. Stay independent.
Labels are bad. Stay independent.
Labels are bad. Stay independent. It'll be a shirt soon.
Oh yeah, that's going in on my merch store. That's going in the merch store for sure.
All right, subscribe, do all the stuff. Share this with your friends. We'll get clips up soon. But yeah, otherwise, good night. Stay independent.
Good night. Bye everyone. Thank you.
Night.